First weld. Absolutely atrocious. Probably a good idea to put on some pants. What is up, guys? 7-0 Savage here, coming at you with a brand new video today. Today we are going to be learning how to weld for the first time ever. Welding is probably the most important skill that you could possibly know in the post-industrial era. Far more useful than something like cursive, which they spent years of my grade school life trying to teach me. Knowing how to weld in our era is kind of like knowing how to light a fire back when we were cavemen. If you were that guy, everybody would come to you with their fresh fish, their newly hunted elk, their beautiful woman in need of warmth. Welding is exactly the same thing. Well, maybe minus the woman, but maybe that's a me problem. So today we are going to become that caveman who can make fire. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Before I attempt to weld all on my own and probably end up lighting something on fire, I'm gonna go visit my old friend Tony, who's been welding longer than I've been alive. Tony is a living, breathing maker. He knows way more than the vast majority of people about how to make stuff. Tony, what kind of stuff are we gonna weld today?
We're going to practice on mild steel and on some aluminum. We're going to MIG weld and stick weld, and if we're ambitious, we'll TIG weld.
First weld.
Weld worm.
Second weld. Here we go. What should I do here?
Squeeze the button and lift it up.
That's so much fun.
Nice, dude. Nice shiny weld, even.
We're gonna try cutting this piece in half and simply welding it back together. Can I touch this? Is it hot? Look at that beauty. All right, now we're gonna let the master try.
Yes.
You might notice that Tony uses a plastic Costco table for welding. How long have you been using this table?
10 years at least.
Now we're gonna pull out this AC stick welder. It's about 1,000 times harder than the MIG. I've already failed about 6 times, and see how it goes. So if you're lucky enough to have a friend like Tony, I highly recommend getting the lowdown from them.
My pleasure, enjoyed it, and you learned really fast, so great job.
My consensus after welding with Tony is that if you can use a garden hose, then you can use a MIG welder. The other types of welding are way harder. 100% do not recommend. With my newfound confidence in welding, particularly MIG welding, we got ourselves a setup here. Now this is a multi-process welder that I'm likely never going to use any process on besides MIG. I'm convinced that multi-process welders are just a marketing tactic for making you pay more for your MIG welder. So it's now time for me to test my wings and see if I can make a project completely on my own. Surprise, surprise, we are going to be building something inside of the van. The project that we're going to be doing needs to be of great strength. We are going to be building a clothing rod to hang clothes inside of our closet. Yes, I do have a hanging closet inside my van because I'm fancy like that. As you can see, we have our nice fireproof welding table here made out of plywood. So this here is what the first weld turned out looking like. It is absolutely atrocious.
If you can use a garden hose, then you can use a MIG welder.
Back to Google searches until I figure out what's wrong. At this point, I was extremely confused because this welder is so easy to use. All you have to do is select your process on the left-hand side, your material thickness, and even after setting those exactly to what I was using, I was having terrible welds. I ended up going with what I call the brute force method, where I just start turning the dials in every which direction and changing all of the variables as much as possible to see if I get lucky. I did this for hours and hours. I made dozens of welds, and this is what they ended up turning out looking like. Hard to tell if this piece of aluminum was welded on or just pooped on by a bunch of different birds. After repeatedly failing for about 5 hours, I decided to do what any true man would and go cry underneath my bed sheets for a few hours. After many tears and a good night's rest, I came back feeling optimistic and ready to endure more failure. And to my surprise, the first few welds actually worked. I don't feel like I really did anything differently than day one. Now this didn't end up looking very pretty, but that's okay because we all know the secret behind every crappy welder is a good angle grinder. I'm ready to start on the final piece here. We're gonna keep it real simple to try and minimize any problems. We got ourselves the angles and we got our tube. We're gonna weld the tube to the angles, call it a day. I was feeling very groovy at this point, even though we ended up bird's nesting our spool gun one weld in, but after that, it was pretty smooth sailing. We ended up making it through the rest of the part with relative mediocrity, and although this final piece still looks atrocious, it actually ended up pretty strong enough to save my sanity at least and roll with it. It was a ton of work to get to this point, but at this point I was absolutely stoked. It was now time to install our completed part, which went pretty smooth as it was just a couple of screws. I did, however, get my screwdriver stuck, but after that it looked pretty good. Little strength test here, be careful now. Lo and behold, it was strong enough to hold my t-shirt here. Very impressive. And I thought it'd be nice to show you guys a couple of shots of our oh so exciting finished product. Even though the best part about making a clothing hanger is that nobody will ever actually look at it. That wraps it up for the video, guys. Please take a moment to send your thoughts and prayers my way. Not because I'm hurt or anything, but because I'm an absolute dog shit welder. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.